So, how would you define organizational development?
I would define organizational development as the technology of using collaboration and consensus building with leaders and their teams to create systemic change and root cause problem solving on behalf of improving productivity and employee satisfaction through strengthening the human processes through which they get their work done. Now, that's kind of a mouthful. So I want to break that down into the four parts that is in there. First, let me give you a little history of why we came up with this definition. That in the OD textbooks, there are lots of definitions in there that talk about OD as being values laden, and all kinds of things that were true, but they were too vague and too general to really tell anybody what we really do. And so we wanted to come up with a more specific definition, and that's what this is. The first part is it's a technology of using collaboration and consensus building with leaders and their teams. Now, the key word there is really collaboration, and it's part of what makes OD sound easy, but it becomes very difficult. Because for me to collaborate effectively, I've got to see myself as your equal. I'm not above you, I'm not below you. And yet, I remember one of my early contracts. I walk into this guy's office. He was a CEO of a major metropolitan TV station in Washington, D.C. And here's this white guy behind this big desk. And he's choked up in his tie. His hair is beautifully coiffed and all that. And I'm going inside my head, oh, shit. What am I doing here? And I began to fall into having to prove myself to this guy until I caught myself that I had put him above me when in truth he had called me. And once I could catch myself, so I did not have to prove anything to him, which would have been just way off base for the conversation that he wanted to have. We could begin to collaborate. Then, of course, there are the clients where I've had a tendency to, oh, this client really is not very bright. That, again, ruins my ability to truly collaborate. We have to do this together. I've had clients who says, Dr. Brum, I want you to solve this problem for us. And I go, no, we will solve this problem. We, as partners, will solve this problem. I won't. That's not what I am here for. So during the program, we will spend a lot of time looking at, have you put yourself above your client? Have you put yourself below your client? Because either one makes collaboration almost impossible. That makes sense to you? Yeah, super. Okay. The next piece is we're after systemic change and root cause problem solving. We live in an era of expedient, fast results. And often when we go to solve problems expediently, we come up with solutions that simply cause other problems. That does not support organizational productivity at all. In fact, it ruins it. Another thing that we do in our organizations is every year we have the same issue with budgeting. And every year we redo the budgeting process because we really haven't gotten at the root cause of the issues. So we have to solve the same problems over and over and over and over again because we've not gotten at root cause. Now, systemic root cause problem solving is what makes OD different than all of the other change management strategies out there. We want to solve problems so that they do not occur again. So a question that I'm constantly asking, what do we need to do so that this doesn't happen again? That pushes us to root cause problem solving. There's one other thing that occurs in the modern organization, and that is that we are all siloed. So if I'm in marketing, but I'm in, my job is simply to, sell, get the word out there, and I wind up selling something that manufacturing cannot deliver because they're in a different silo. Why would I talk with them? So I wind up causing problems because I don't have a perspective of the entire organization. So again, I wind up causing problems that can be avoided if we have a more systemic, let's call it a more executive perspective. The executive perspective is always looking at the total organization. So that if I'm head of marketing, from an executive systemic perspective, I'm also looking at, okay, how are the decisions I'm going to make going to impact the rest of the organization and the bottom line of this organization? Got it? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No questions?
Just, it strikes me that as we try to go fast and business keeps going faster, we really have to take that pause and slow down to get to the right problem, to then be able to go as fast as we need to,
Yes.
or even faster.
Ironically, we need to slow down to go faster. Because doing it the way we currently doing it, coming up with solutions that cause other problems, then we have to go back and redo everything. How many projects have you been on where you jump in, you get off to a great start, and then you go down the road and you discover, oh, there's somebody that you forgot to check with, and then you got to go back and redo everything. I've worked with manufacturing outfits that find that they have to throw out tons of stuff simply because they had not checked to see that this is really going to work for the entire organization. Yeah, so to stop problem solving in ways that cause other problems. Well, that's really what makes OD different and so much more powerful. But again, it calls for a fairly strong use of self because we live in a Western society that says that the individual is king. And so we tend not to think systemically at all. We have an engineering mentality that says if this system isn't working, let's find the component that isn't working, let's take it out, fix it, or replace it. But that won't solve systemic issues. Systemic issues can better be solved through fixing the relationships of the human beings that make up that system. If I discover, if I, in my infinite wisdom coming from an individualism philosophy, I see you as the problem. So I get rid of you finally. But then 6 months later, the problem is still there because we haven't fixed the systemic issue. One of my favorite examples is the meetings that don't work. How come we let meetings go on and on and on and on? And people complain about meetings all the time, but we keep having meetings that don't work. Where is the systemic solution? We take courses in making meetings work, and that doesn't seem to work. What is the systemic issue there? And it is basically an issue where Nobody in the meeting is willing to say, until the meeting's over, this meeting doesn't work for me, and it hasn't worked for a good while. Can we talk about what we can do together that can make this meeting work? Such a simple thing, but we tend not to do it. We want to do all of this on behalf of two things: improving productivity and improving employee satisfaction, employee engagement. That those two things are very closely related to each other. Many companies make the error of just going after productivity at the expense of employee satisfaction. That leads to turnover, disengaged employees, which then you pay for anyway.
Yeah.
Then, back in the 70s, there was this big movement around human relations management strategies, where the notion was keep the employees happy and they'll work hard. But part of the strategy was you were going to compliment employees even when they did poor work. So that just really rewarded people for doing work that wasn't very good. And so just focusing on in keeping people happy isn't it either. It's really about employee satisfaction and productivity linked together. One works and supports the other because they work as a system as well. And we do that through strengthening the processes through which they get their work done, which is how we talk to each other, dealing with the differences we have, because there's not a problem in a human system that isn't based in some difference that is not being handled well. So, can we give each other straight feedback? Can we give each other good information in a timely manner? Can we learn from our differences rather than fight about our differences? Because if the human system works, all the technical systems will work. That's what OD is about.
Great, thank you.
Anytime.